is going against just because the Democrat votes against. How do we solve that problem, and how do you help solve that problem?
You're talking about on a state level?
Well, state level as well. Yes, sir.
National level?
State. Yes, sir.
Well, let's look at people. You have two major parties, but in South Carolina, we have 8 political parties. So your two major parties being your Democratic Party and your Republican Party, I've supported both parties. There are things that the GOP do, especially from an economic and business perspective, that are good for my businesses. And if they're good for my businesses, I could help the community even more because of my independence as a private business owner. And there are things that the Democrats have done, especially when coming out with the up to $300 a month per child, the child tax credit. That's going to help some families. But those who make more, and they still need help. And so when we look at voting and issues, it's about compromising, of course. But my thing is, I don't want to be one of those guys that put party over principle, put party over the people. And I think that's what has happened. I think our established politicians are so locked into the establishment that they have really forgotten about us. The everyday person here, everyday people here that need their attention, not getting it. I've been around this district now for months. Over 2 years we've been working on this. And people are basically saying the same thing. I call, I can't get any help. I call, I can't get any help. Our community is still the same. We got the corridor of shame. Our school districts are in poor shape. You know, and we're still bickering over little things. But I believe we need to empower the people locally. And when we empower the people locally, then we can send people to the State House. We can send people to the governor's house. We can send people to Congress and Senate because we are registered voters and we're exercising our right to vote. And I tell people, no matter what voter suppression laws are passed, go vote. No matter how they try to stop you from voting, go vote. It's a fundamental right that all of us have. And you have to exercise it. You'll be amazed how many black men tell me my vote don't count. There's such a small percentage of black men voting, especially in our district, Congressional District 6. I want to change that. We are changing that because we have on our platform things that concern black men too. Things like child support reform. One of the things that we're working on as we go around and ask men about it is basically the same thing. They are saying it needs to be reformed. And as we look into it closer, it really does. It's an archaic system. It's outdated. And it does not build a community. It doesn't build a family structure. Therefore, it doesn't build a community structure. So that's a system that we have to work on and revamp. Prison reform. A lot of us have been under the tutelage of the prison system, and we have to work on it and reform it. I know it from firsthand. When I took a stance to support the Million Man March back in the 90s, I got arrested like almost 14 times in 1 month. Just for little things like sitting in my car in my parking lot with the car running without a seatbelt on, being given a seatbelt ticket. And so just little things that people do, what we call guerrilla warfare,
yes, sir,
to try to throw you off of your mission. But we can't let that stop us from exercising our right to vote. No matter what oppression is out there, no matter what blocks are in your way, step over them, walk around them. You must exercise your right to vote. I encourage black women to encourage their young boys at age 17 to get registered and start exercising their rights to vote. Encourage black men that their votes do count, but they got to exercise it. You can't lose the game if you're not playing. You got to get in the game. And we know it's not fair, but whoever said it was going to be fair? But look at those who took the fire water hoses and the dog bites and the baton hits across the head to give us this right. We owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to our grandparents, our forefathers and mothers that came before us and paved the way. My children didn't grow up seeing racism like I saw it. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, 2 white guys tried to kill me by shooting me in the forehead, but the bullet just grazed my forehead. And my aunt, Dorothy Bishop, she rescued me. And she came out to protect me. I had no idea what was going on. In Hartsville, South Carolina, a very small community, we were raised with white kids, black kids, all of us together. But at some point in time, you experience things that as a child you don't even know. But God got me past that. And I said, man, I'm going to study. I'm going to learn everything I can because I know education unlocked a lot of doors. And that's another thing in this district. Our children are dropping out of school. We have the highest dropout rate in the state. We can fix that, though. We can literally fix that. But we got to be a part of it. And I think our current leadership is so detached and so disconnected from the people, especially the youth, that they don't hear them. They don't hear them and they don't even see them. No matter how much you give them, they need to be a part of something that they could wrap their arms around, wrap their minds around. And we believe we can reach the children and get them involved because they are our future leaders. As I get older, I want to be able to go to a younger doctor who could help take care of me, or a younger psychiatrist who could listen to my ills, and talk about things that I'm experiencing. I want to see our kids get into the trades like plumbing, electrical, mechanical, like air quality control. And these are the type of businesses that we work in now that we try to teach others to do the same. So you're absolutely right. We have a lot of things going on, and we have to work on both sides of the aisle. But I don't think we have to compromise our principles to get a vote.
So how do we look for Dr. Addison? Because I'm saying, until the Republican that's in that seat and the Democrat in that seat can compromise to help the people, I think they have to work among each other, because it seems like they're competing against each other and not for the people. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Republicans don't like what the Democrats says because they're Democrats.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are some Republicans in this state who are my friends.
Yes, sir.
And associates, acquaintances. And they want to say every Democrat is a communist. I'm like, seriously, dude, it's not that serious. It's not that bad. The thing is, people are not communicating.
Correct.
That's the bottom line. People are not communicating. And because we're not communicating, we just start making up crazy ideologies about each other. And none of it is really true. As I sit and talk with conservative Republicans, as I talk with progressive Democrats, 9 out of 10 things we talk about, we all have in common. Mm-hmm. It's just 1 or 2 things that we differ on. And it's like, I look at it this way. We both want to eat, but I want steak and you want shrimp. But we still both want to eat.
Yes, sir.
And so look at the appetite of the Democrats and look at the appetite of the Republicans. But I think these other 6 parties that are in South Carolina, I think they should become more vocal and active as well. Because I don't think we should just be a 2-party state. I think we should have multiple parties like we do, but I think they should be active and get involved. And currently I don't see them.
Another big issue we have in our state is crime. How do we solve this crime issue that we have? And then also the issue about the crime that's being done to our blacks.
When you said crime done to our blacks, you're talking about black on black crime?
Well, we have black on black, and then we have blacks being done by the officers.
By police officers?
Correct. We have that as well.
Mm-hmm. One of the first things I would do to help curtail the crime is I would legalize marijuana. I would decriminalize it and legalize marijuana because there are some senseless crimes that are there due to marijuana possession, the little monies that people make selling marijuana. Why not make it legal and let people open up legitimate businesses? That'll curtail a lot of the crime. And retroactively let people out of prison who's there due to marijuana. Because over half of our inmates are probably there on marijuana charges. We could eliminate that. Now, if you got a pound of weed and I got a pound of weed, what we robbing each other for? That's like going to your house stealing your bread and mayonnaise. And we don't need that. You got yours and I got mine. And I think we've put so much emphasis onto this marijuana thing until it's causing a lot of crime. Because a lot of the young fellas shooting and gunning down each other, this black on black crime, a lot of these kids are out here in situations trying to make some money. They're already entrepreneurs and they don't even know it. They already set up shop They got the distribution centers in places. And I'm like, dude, why don't you take that same system and make it a legitimate business? But no one's talking to them. A lot of us are afraid of our children and the young people, but not me. I'm not scared of them. I love these kids. A lot of them I treated when they were first born. I treated in the sports medicine program. I see these young people, and a lot of them support me because they know I'm the guy that will come to the game, hang out. Come on, you're just another little kid. I know your mama and your daddy. I know your grandparents. We all went to church or school together. You might have some ideologies about things affecting you, then we need to talk about it. You might need to seek counsel. A lot of our young boys out there are so alone and so afraid. They're so depressed. And when a person gets that scared, they become criminals, either out of fear or desire. Desire to have something that someone else has, or fear of losing what they got, in particular their lives. I talk to so many young kids that carry guns, and I ask them why. They say because everybody else has guns, and no one else wants to fight anymore. Everyone wants to strap up and shoot. And I think Hollywood and our music industry has a lot to do with that as well. And we need to take a closer look at what we're putting out there and allowing it to come back into our communities. But as far as police officers and the crime on blacks with police officers kill more white people than they do black people unarmed. But the percentage is higher because of the number of blacks in this country. I think what we need to do, we need to focus on police reform, in particular qualified immunity. This is where my opponent, the current congressman, we differ. I don't think police officers should have qualified immunity. But let me say this first. I think all police officers should have a major raise. I don't think we pay the police officers enough money for the role that we ask them to serve in our communities. I think the base pay for police officers in South Carolina should start at $60,000. Then we should get better qualified candidates to be our police officers, not just some guy off the street because he want to put on a uniform and carry a gun. That's not a good candidate. It's about serving the community. And I think our police officers should have psychological evaluations on an annual basis because it's a stressful job. Look at our military. We put our military men and women out there. They don't have qualified immunity. They can't just go out and randomly shoot up another country of people. They'll go to jail. They'll be court-martialed. But yet our police officers want the same military gear, military tactical training, but not held to the same standard as the military. So I think our police officers should be held to the same standard as our military. I think we should train them properly, but I also think they should get a pay raise. They should have psych evaluations. And if you're a young white cop raised in a white community, never been around black people, and then you're going to get hired to come serve the black community without proper training and psychological evaluation, I don't think he's qualified. And it's the same if it was a young black cop who never been around white folk. He got to go in the white community to serve, but yet he doesn't understand their culture, doesn't understand the essence of their culture. He's not going to be a good fit for that position. So we just can't keep hiring people because they put in an application without properly scrutinizing them. I don't think the prosecutors should have qualified immunity, and I don't think the judges should have it either. In this country, prosecutors oftentimes go in, well, not oftentimes, but sometimes go in and lie to the grand juries. I think if a prosecutor is going to a grand jury, the person that they're going to speak on behalf of, I think that person should have legal representation in that grand jury booth as well, to hear what's being said, to be able to report to the courts when that prosecutor is lying. Because oftentimes they lie and put up false information and skirt the law. Look at the Bill Cosby situation. Cosby should have never been tried according to the law. I'm not talking about his guilt or innocence. That's not what we're here to discuss. But I'm talking about they had a thing on file where, hey, this is the terms that we're going by. So you could testify freely in a civil trial. Well, they told him he other than that, he would have never waived his Fifth Amendment right to self-incrimination. But they lied to him, or they changed it. And the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania said you can't do that. That's wrong. And I think that prosecutor who did that should be sanctioned. He should be held accountable because he knows the law. And he knew the precedent, but yet he chose to violate it. So see, we have to look at everything in this country because it can come right back and affect us, from voter suppression to police brutality. And we have to praise those officers who do such a good job in our communities because we need them in our communities. I'm not about defunding the police. I want to give them more money. I want a pay raise because I can only imagine what a mother, a wife, and the children go through knowing their daddy may not make it back home. And he's only making $28,000 a year. I just don't think that's enough. And one of the first things I would want to do is raise the pay and get better training for them. But training to teach them to serve and protect, not just teach them to kill and how to get over being killed, but killing someone, taking a life. Because I know it must hurt them when they do that. And I think when they have those type of shootings and killings by the police officers, those officers need to go through counseling immediately.
Okay, we recently just went through another president. We have another president right now, but the past president, he went through a push of trying to make feel like one race was better than another race. And now, how do we get the country back to the feeling whereas we are one country, whereas there's no race better than the next race, and we should be equal and, you know what I'm saying, be working together instead of separately.
Well, we're referencing Donald Trump. You know, you look at Bush Jr. That were there before Obama. And if you go back and look, there was division then. And then when you look at how Bush got elected, well, against Al Gore, the hanging Chad in Florida. Remember that. But the Democrats, even though a lot of us disagreed with the results of that election, we didn't go storm the Capitol. You see, we are a community of civility. We have civil laws. Everyone has to follow them. No matter what you think your position is, you have a set of laws you have to go by. Now, as far as the protests on January the 6th, I'm all for it. I think those who felt like the vote was wrong or something was not right about it, they have the right to protest and let their congressmen and women know we don't agree with this and we want it looked into deeper or a closer look at it. But to go in and create damage to the property, break the laws, cause harm to the officers there, I think those people should be punished for their wrongdoing. And the same if it was the Black Lives Matter group. Going in, breaking the laws and doing things to hurt people, they should be punished as well, but we don't normally see that. So when you look at Donald Trump, his policies, Donald Trump has some really decent policies. But the person, a lot of things he said and done, I don't support. Like grab them by the private parts, you know, and S-hole type countries. You know, we don't talk that way. That's not what civil people do. Okay? Now, that might what a playboy does, but that's not what civil people do. But some of the policies were really good for the country and good for businesses. Some of the things he did in the African-American community, as far as the money's going towards the HBCUs, some of the people he pardoned, some of the other policies that he put in place that are good for business are good for the African-American community as well. Now, to me, my grandmother said like that she would say, and she's no longer with us, she would say the thing that occurred on January the 6th in D.C., that's white folk business. That's how she was scored. Because a lot of the Capitol Police, they knew those guys. All this was organized. If Black Lives Matter group would have been up there breaking up windows and all, they would have all been shot down a long time before they even got on the yard. So there's a biasness that really needs to be fixed. And that goes back to the white supremacy. That mentality that even black folk been instilled in us. And we go back and we talk about the critical race theory. I have a lot of people asking me about that. I don't think the critical race theory should be taught in the high schools and the elementary schools and kindergarten. And you know why? Because it's not. It's not taught there. It's taught as a graduate level course, and it's taught in the military so we can look at the psychology and the ideology that people have that keep us divided. And so I think our history should be taught. You can't teach half of the history and not the other half. You teach the whole thing. You tell the truth about our history to make our country continue to grow. So the divisiveness can be curtailed if people are willing to be open and if we're willing to get involved. For so long, black people have been sitting around on the sidelines just letting the government do what it does. Let it affect them. Black men saying our vote don't count. Black folk not wanting to go out and vote. We got to get up, rise up to the occasion. It's time for us to govern our communities in particular. It is definitely time for us to govern. And I think once we have our leadership in place, representing our position with the other leaders in place, then I think we'll get a better balance. Now, we live in a Republican state. They call South Carolina a red state. Congressional District 6 is the only Democratic district in the state. So, with that being said, how do we deal with the Republican districts? How do we deal with the Republican leadership? Do we allow them to dismiss us? Or do we just totally forget about them and do our own thing? When we are a state with a Republican governor, with a Republican legislature. Most of the votes in South Carolina and Columbia are along party lines. They have some bipartisan stuff that they can work together on, but the majority of it is on party line. And that party, the majority of the Democrats there are black, the majority of the Republicans are white. We got to change that. If they're black people who have Republican views, I think they should run for office. I don't think it should be based on race. If they're white people who have Democratic views, they should run for office. It shouldn't be based on race. But oftentimes we've been programmed to base it on race. I'm about basing it on governance. What's good for the people? I've treated all races over the years. They're all just my patients. And these all are just my voters. All of you are my constituents, regardless of age, regardless of color, regardless of race or gender. You are my constituents, and I will listen to you, and I will talk to you, because I want to hear what you have to say.
One big thing that we have going on right now is COVID-19 vaccine. A lot of people don't want to take it. People need to take it. What's your views about that?
Okay, COVID-19 comes from SARS-2, and basically it's a virus. It's a mRNA, messenger RNA virus. And so in Orangeburg, last year, my group and I have a company called the Medical Wellness Center. We started the Medical Wellness Center Coronavirus Task Force. And what we did without any money from the government, we started going out testing people. We got with DHEC, we got the supplies, I got with other nurses and doctors who were willing to support us. We took our own monies and we start having gatherings of hundreds of our people in the rural and urban communities coming out to be tested because you need to know your status. Now, currently, there's been a lot of myths going on that first, black people can't get coronavirus. Yes, you can. You know, that you don't need a vaccine. Vaccines are good. But you got to understand what's the purpose of a vaccine. A vaccine is not a treatment and it's not a cure. What a vaccine is, it's what we use when we inject it in your body to help your body build what we call artificial immunity. Build antibodies, artificial immunity to the virus. Now, I was exposed to the virus and I built a natural immunity to the virus. So I have the antibodies in my body already. So a person who has the antibodies or don't should be tested before they take the vaccine, in my opinion. In my professional opinion, I believe a person should be tested for the virus and the antibodies before taking the vaccine. Now, we're in a rush to get everyone out there to take the vaccine. That's important. But let's get back in a rush to get people tested so we'll know their baselines. Because, see, if you take the vaccine and you have the antibodies already, or if you have the virus, you could set up something called a cytokine storm in your body. And what that is, your body just start producing all types of antibodies, start going against itself. And then after that, you begin to have something called multiple system failure. And with multiple system failure, the next step is death. So I encourage people to know their status first. I'm a fan of vaccines when properly implemented. You don't go get surgery on your eyes and ain't nothing wrong with them. You don't go you can't even get the flu vaccine if you got the flu. And so people now, the studies are showing, and I'm studying them even more, that the majority of the people that are being hospitalized are non-vaccinated people. So if you're not going to get vaccinated, you got to continue to do the hand washing. You got to continue to wear the mask because it's an airborne virus. It moves through droplets through the air at about 6 feet. The mask absorbs that and help protect you. So, but, I tell people you don't have to wear a mask when you're in your car by yourself. When you're at home by yourself, you don't need to wear a mask. And so you want to wash your hands. You want to wipe down your surfaces with a bleaching water. You want to make sure you get your vitamin D levels checked. If you have a problem with clotting and the possibility that you've been exposed to the virus, we know that it causes blood clots. See, before we thought it was just a respiratory problem. It's respiratory. Acute respiratory distress, the ARDs can occur, but it's a vascular issue, meaning that when your body gets the virus, it begins to cause your body to clot. Your blood begins to clot. So we suggest people take the necessary nutrients like NEC, N-acetylcysteine, which helps the body from coagulating. And it helps what we call glutathione, which is an antioxidant, because the virus causes the body to produce free radicals. And the glutathione, one of those antioxidants, the body can remove those and help with its defensive mechanism. But the interleukin hormones that the body needs to produce, it can't produce those in the absence of vitamin D. Now, traditionally, the average black person is vitamin D deficient. Why? Because we don't get any sunlight, we're inside, and we don't supplement. Now, the studies show that you need to take between 2,500 and 4,000 international units of vitamin D3 daily to have a medicinal benefit. We don't do that. And so we don't know to do that. And the ignorance is what's killing us. And a lot of it because the doctors, we hadn't really put the word out like that. Everybody's following the money. And I'm so fortunate that my grandmother taught us to do what was right first. And if you want money, it'll come. But do what's best and what's right first. Those fundamental principles, what's best for the community. To let people know even if you take the vaccine. Remember, when you take the vaccine, the body still has to produce the antibodies. But in the absence of vitamin D, you can't produce the antibodies. And so people who drink sodas, high fructose corn syrup, studies show that high fructose corn syrup inactivates vitamin D in your body. So if vitamin D is inactivated, there's no way you can produce the necessary antibodies. And those of us who are obese and overweight and have a lot of fat cells, vitamin D is stored in those fat cells, so therefore it's removed from the blood. And that causes another decrease in your vitamin D levels. So I think it's important that we focus on the nutritional things we need, but also make sure you know your baseline for your coronavirus, as far as the virus and your antibodies before you move forward and with the vaccine. But vaccines are very important.
Dr. Addison, we're running short on time. If someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they go about doing that?
They can reach us on Facebook at Addison for Congress on Facebook. They can reach us at addisonforcongress.com on the website, or they can call us directly at 803-269-3443. And I've taken over 700 calls to date because we want to talk to people. We want to hear what they got to say. But definitely they can find us on Facebook, on all of the social medias, we're there. And if not, somebody who knows us, they can call the current congressman's office. He'll tell them how to get in touch with us. They all know how to reach us. But I thank you for this opportunity to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, and I look forward to coming back with you and talk some more about some more different topics.
Man, that would be awesome.
All right, thank you, Dr. Addison. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, watch the show, and you be encouraged. Thank you.
We are.